I use photography to help me explain my experiences to myself.
A picture should be looked at, not talked about.
Hey, welcome to the Street Shots Photography Podcast. This is Antonio.
And this is Ward.
And this is episode 198 for the end of December 2023 and for the end of 2023.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Happy soon to be New Year. And yeah, we made it. I really wished that this was our 200th episode. In fact, Podbean, which is the host for the podcast, actually thought my last episode was the 200th episode because I had done a couple of half episodes.
Right.
And so it counts every upload as an episode. So it said, do you want your badge for the 200th episode? I was like, oh, I can't yet.
Yeah.
we haven't
Can you ask for it later?
No, it stays up there. So I can always go back to it. It's a downloadable image. So the end of our next month will be our 200th episode, which is holy hell.
That's a lot. That's a lot of talking.
It's a lot. I mean, I know there's other podcasts that have, hundreds and hundreds of episodes, but I didn't think that I would be doing this many shows. When Tom and I first started, it wasn't, I didn't think that. So to even get to 198, to be this far in it, I'm pretty happy. So yeah,
that's great. I am happy for you and for us.
Yeah, and I'm glad I'm really happy you're along for the ride. So
well, I thank you, sir.
Yeah. So how was your holiday, more or less?
Holiday's been pretty good. We've had I've been working through, but we had a 4-day weekend here because we got Monday and Tuesday off. So had a nice long weekend to chill a little bit. We had a whole bunch of people over at the house for first big blowout house party for years and years. And it was great.
Oh, great.
So nice. It was nice. It was a nice visit with some people we haven't seen in 5, 6, 7 years.
Really?
Yeah. They just, there's a thing to do on a Tuesday night.
Are they close to you or far away? Is that what?
Oh, they're all pretty close.
Okay.
Yeah. North part of the city. So yeah.
Well, it has been an interesting past bunch of years. So
yeah. Yeah. So this was, as noisy as it was, and my kind of introverted self, it was, there was an adjustment to be had, but it is kind of another, if you want to call it, another earmark of how things returning back to normal. It sort of feels like the before times.
The before. It sounds like some sort of post-apocalyptic movie.
No, it's the I Am Legend.
Times.
Yeah, the before times. Yeah. So,
Oh,
how about
cool.
you? How are things? How's your holiday been?
My holiday was not as fun as yours, I'm sure. This one, this is the second year after she died, and I didn't really, since my wife died, Elizabeth, excuse me, I'm gonna make sure she gets named, and it was a lot harder this year than it was last year, and I was trying to figure out why, and I think because last year was close to her death, and so I think it was in more shock and still. Dealing with her death and not worried about the holidays, and so this year is a little bit more settled down, and so it was the quiet and the missing her was a lot more extreme. She loved Christmas. Christmas was her. She was Jewish too, and she was the one who taught me about Christmas.
It's the lights, the Christians,
the lights.
And the lights. The lights. It brings you in.
Yeah, she grew up in Brooklyn, and her parents allowed her to have a little Christmas tree in the kitchen or something, is what I heard, or Christmas bush or something like that. But she was Christmas all along. And what for me was sad was I'm not a huge fan of Christmas. I don't really care too much about it since I was a kid, but I really loved how she celebrated it, like watching her get into it, which would drive me crazy sometimes, Yeah. But so actually Christmas Eve was a hard day. Christmas Day was actually not as bad, I think, because I had gotten all out of my system on Christmas Eve. But yeah, it was a little rough. And yeah, so I ended up spending the time alone, which, don't feel sorry for me. It was just Christmas. It was really nice because it was so quiet.
Cats are.
And it's really quiet. You walk around the streets and there's like nobody there. And I really love that. I really love when no matter what, there's like the schools are out or gone and nobody's going to work and the highways are quiet. So it does give me a chance to do what I wanted. And I did make myself a nice steak dinner, which I'm
nice.
Getting into my cooking and stuff like that. So it was
the traditional fun. Christmas meal, roast beast.
Yeah, this was a New York strip.
Oh, nice.
That's nice.
Or as you call it, a strip.
A strip, yes. I had planned this, so I bought a bunch of steaks. Sorry, vegans and vegetarians out there. And I bought them about a week and a half ago, and I put a couple in the freezer, knowing that I would, have one for Christmas. And so, it was nice. So, I'm just going through the regular rough stuff, which I'm not dismissing. It is part of my life, and it's my identity, in a way. And so, but it's not, I don't say it out here for people to feel bad for me or something like that. It's just grieving is a process. And there's no time limit on it for me. So, it's interesting, but yeah, I missed going out and getting our Christmas tree. What we used to do is we'd go and get a Christmas tree from a place a few blocks away, long blocks, with a shopping cart. And then we would roll the shopping cart down Ocean Parkway, and there was one spot where I would set up a camera, exactly the same spot. It was putting this camera in a tripod on a like a fence post, a brick fence post, and I would take the same shot every year as many times as we've been here in this neighborhood doing that. And that's became a tradition in a sense, and seeing the pictures, and they start popping up on my timeline too, and you start saying like, 1 year ago today, actually it was like, the same day that I was walking down the street, it was like 1 year ago today, this is what you were doing. And I had seen that multiple pictures were actually done on the same day, strangely enough. We never timed it, like we're going to go out on the 15th and do this. So I would do a Polaroid or something like that. But anyway, there's that. It's a different thing that I'm used to. But I didn't listen to any Christmas music.
So, we had our fill of it here from beginning of December. So
yeah,
it has stopped as of Christmas Day.
Yeah, I got away with it. Yeah, it was great. I'm glad it stopped. Actually, no, that's not true. I listened to one Christmas tune because I was turning on YouTube, and Apple had a Snoopy screensaver kind of thing, like the Yule log, like a 2-hour thing of Snoopy lying on his on the top of his doghouse in the snow, and they were playing the Vince what is it, Garibaldi? Or I'm getting it wrong. Not Garibaldi.
Yeah,
the music
it'll
from
come to me. Yeah,
the music from
Giraldi.
Giraldi, yes, Vince Giraldi from the Charlie Brown Christmas, which is, I don't know if that's Christmas music, but if I always associate it with Snoopy. Anyway, so, but I'm glad to be here with you tonight, and this is the last show of the year, and I don't think we've done this before, and I thought we'd just sort of give it a try. Like, I have no agenda, just other than like what's happened to us in the past year, what's notable, what is going to move forward. So anything that comes to our mind, and
sure.
I did want to sort of, bookend. I think we might have started the year with this. Sorry for saying that's like artificial intelligence, but I'm so, and now I'm glued back to it again. I'm so interested and curious and scared and whatever feeling you can put to it in what has happened in the past year. Where we started in January 2023 or December of last year to 2022, and where we're at now.
Yeah.
And I just recently, the reason why I'm mentioning it too, because I just re-upped my Midjourney account for a little while, because they just uploaded a new version, which is called version 6. And the photographicness of it has gotten even more, it's actually one of the best photographic looks, I think, of all the different image making AI software out there, the Dolly and the whatever else is out there. This was a major upgrade. So I was looking at it and I was like, oh, and I'm just amazed at how far it's come in a year.
Yeah.
And
yeah, you posted some of those pictures and
what the ones I just the which ones?
The Midjourney 6, I think.
What were the pictures of? Remind me, because
they're in our Discord.
Oh, in our Discord, right? Of the
shoot,
like I got to see what they are. Where did I put them, in the incinerator?
Sure, or either the incinerator or in the photo channel. I don't
incinerator. Know. I'm pretty sure it was incinerator. Oh yeah. The living rooms.
Oh yes, the contemporary living rooms.
Contemporary living rooms.
Architectural Digest.
Yeah,
kind of images.
Oh, and then I also posted, there was a picture of someone did a shot of or created an image of the Joker, like a close up of the Joker's face, which is what I first saw. Yeah. So one of the things I want to do for my website, when I clean it up and get it up, I want to be able to put my photographs into frames and put them in spaces, so that if people want to buy prints, they can see what it looks like hanging up on the wall. So one of the things I've done is gone to Unsplash, the free, the crazy site where photographers give away their pictures for free, and decided, well, if you're going to give your pictures away for free, I'm going to use them. And so I was finding a lot of, living rooms, kitchens, and anything that might have had art on the wall, and then I could sort of replace it in Photoshop and then put those on my site as a demonstration of what my images would look like. Right. On your wall. And by the way, if you want to sell prints, not that I've made any print sales because of that, but I think that is a much better way to show your work. Sort of like when you go to buy a house, you don't look at the house empty. You always look at the house staged, and it gives you a better impression of how you might live there. I think displaying your images in sort of in a setting that someone might want to buy them and might be more encouraging them to buy, because look at it looks like on a wall in a living room. Anyway, so Unsplash is very actually, they did have a few pictures I downloaded, but I thought, what if I try to generate those shots in Midjourney and see if I could get, the prompt is very simple. It was like, contemporary living room with, an art, a photograph on the wall or something like that. Like literally, like you don't even have to type in any kind of crazy resolutions or all the kind of magic stuff that you had to do before. You just type in room with da-da-da. And you might specify daytime or nighttime or whatever like that. And it spit out these photographs or images. See, I'm falling into that trap. They're not photographs. I will never say that these are photographs, but they mimic, these pictures specifically mimic photography in a way that I haven't seen yet. And as a user of it, I was thinking, these are useful. I could actually, superimpose some of my shots into them. And that's what I was doing. I was generating like tons of living room pictures, but this is stuff that's just generated from scraping imagery on the internet. It's not, 3D renderings as far as I can tell.
No, but the light is pretty good. And there's the one image that you posted where it's a fairly large image, like 24 by 36 with, I imagine it's a reflection in the glass from the room. I don't know if that's true, but there appears to
curtains,
be reflections, the curtains there.
Yeah.
And it's lit really well.
The ambient light that the application creates is pretty insane. Like bouncing light off of the ground and tinging, like if the light is bouncing off of a wooden floor, you get a little bit of orange on the white that it's bouncing. It's just, this thing is figuring things out. And this is just, living rooms. I mean, people and stuff like that. So yeah, we talked about this for a while. It came back. I'm just, the reason why I mentioned this, because this new version, we're about to go into the new year, and I'm, sort of planting my flag in a way of saying it's going to be really interesting what we're going to be talking about 12 months from now, seeing the progression that has where we started and where we ended up. And as of today's news, I don't know if you heard, but the New York Times is suing OpenAI and Microsoft as well for saying that they're scraping their data and using it for their AI models and stuff like that. So that's all going to factor into the future. But I'm very pessimistic for the photo industry. Very pessimistic, even more so now than I think I might have mentioned before.
Well, I think you said when you posted these pictures, there go some more jobs, right? So
yeah, there's another, it's not going to get rid of real estate photography per se, because, that's about photographing something that's real. But, I'm looking at this kind of stuff, and even like the pictures of people now that it's creating, the imagery of people pictures. You see, I keep saying this. The imagery of people is gotten so much more realistic. It still looks, there's still fakeness to it, but I think it's really going to solidify
there's a novelty right now with them people cloning other people's faces, a whole family.
Yes,
of
there's
the same faces.
Yeah.
Those sorts of things that are just whatever novelties.
Well, there's also, I'm getting in my feed now that there are applications that you can download, and this is probably not news, but I think it adds to the whole soup of this, the ingredients to the end of a lot of jobs, is that you can upload a photograph of yourself, and then an AI application is going to create essentially a headshot of you, or a LinkedIn style portrait, professional portrait that doesn't look fake at all, and uses your face to superimpose onto this creation, and they look great. I mean, you're looking at them on screen size. Nobody's going to know that they're not taken by a professional photographer, and it's something that's very easy, and it's cheap. You're not needing headshots from a photographer going out and da-da-da. I mean, I don't think that's going to totally eliminate that, but I think a lot more people who would use photographers to do that are not going to choose to use photographers. They're going to choose to use these applications. And so it's just another hole in the boat that is now filling with water, and I'm worried for all those photographers who are not going to be able to work because of this stuff. And it's going to be really interesting to see where this ends up. Like, a lot of this is going to end up in court in some way.
And I think there'll be some big settlements. There's a kind of a feeling of inevitability, of which, part of me as a person who's in technology, I shrug a little bit and say, well, of course it's going to advance, but what does that really mean? What does that mean for people's livelihoods, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm on the face of it, I think I'm pro Skynet, but well, just because it's where the technology, this is a disruptive technology that is going to, it is part of our lives, part of our culture, part of the whole deal, and what it's going to look like. We're in these early stages of, we need to make some decisions now about what things are going to look like.
I agree. And there was an article in the Times, which I didn't read fully. Maybe I did read it, I can't remember, and I'm not really good with summarizing stuff. That's why I have ChatGPT for it. But
eating your own dog food.
It was more like an opinion piece, saying what is happening to our creativity if we only let something like an artificial intelligence create it. We're no longer expanding, right? As artists and as creative creatures that human beings are, we always step outside of the box when we're, or some of us step outside of the box when we're creation, and that pushes the boundaries of art and creation further. And if we just now rely on artificial intelligence, which is obviously a bound system, right? It doesn't, because it's based on the work that we're creating. And if we're no longer pushing our boundaries, therefore artificial intelligence will not push the boundaries. It will just base itself on what is already existing. And so how do we go further as creatives? How do we do that? And, I'm thinking about that as I'm looking at all the stuff that people are creating on Midjourney, and there's some really compelling images. I mean, like I hoard these images. I put them in a little binder that says, or, digital albums, Midjourney images, because they're so off the wall. And, part of me thinks, well, but these are sort of pushing the boundaries, aren't they? And I don't know. I have to think of that, but I don't. Maybe not, because they're still using, techniques that we're aware of, like soft lighting or shallow depth of field, or maybe the outfits that people are creating, or the worlds that people are creating are new, but they're not. I see what this person was talking about. They're just not. It doesn't take that extra step over. Like, you can imagine like an artificial intelligence photographic creator creating images like oh darn it, I'm blocking out his name.
A photographer or
a photographer, artist? A photographer in the shoot. Oh,
a street photographer?
No. Oh, damn it.
I can help you. I know a little.
Of course you can help me, but this is what's getting old. Okay.
It's okay, done. Folks. We'll be right back.
We'll be right.
So,
yeah. I want to say Motherwell, not Motherwell. That's not a photographer. Maplethorpe. Jeez.
Oh, Maplethorpe. Okay.
Sorry. Yeah. Thank you. I should cut that out, but I'll leave it in because you can see that my brain is.
Yeah. No,
failing.
We're all good.
I mean, and I just picked him out of the. I was thinking like, well, who's pushing the boundaries of photography? He certainly was one of them. Will an artificial intelligence be able to push boundaries of art the way someone like Maplethorpe would? And I think not. I think that's kind of impossible. And I think it will become more impossible as the wagons circle and we decide as a culture, like, well, we're not going to be creating any more stuff. We're going to just use AI to create it. So anyway, that I think is the danger. And I think that's going to sort of, we're going to see that play out in the next year would be my, and with all these lawsuits that are going on too, they'll start to
some things will shake out there.
Yeah. We can't,
say nothing of the, there's battles going on with the internet and privacy and customer data and all that kind of stuff that's going, back and forth between Europe and the United States and the G6 nations and the I5, like it's all, there's some other battles to fight. And I think AI will be definitely in there.
Yeah. And I do think, unfortunately, there's going to be, economic issues. And once I start making these images move too, in a reasonable way, I mean, those are just starting now too, starting to get artificial intelligence movement. And so there goes, certain aspects of video production down. So I don't know. And yes, I'm also in that camp of Skynet camp. I mean, I like this stuff because it's really cool. Yeah. There's something really compelling about it. And, so anyway, I wanted to throw that in into the mix. This is not necessarily photography, but one of the things I've latched onto in the past month is I started collecting fountain pens.
Fountain pens, like
like fountain
new
pens.
Ones, like fancy Mark Cross ones, and
not so fancy. I can't afford so many nice fancy ones. The way it started, and I think it does the relation to. I think I talked about this in the last episode on my own. But where it's really coming from is the writing that we're doing with our photography.
Oh, yes, the journaling
and the whatnot. That's sort of where the kernel of this is, because it requires writing by hand. And, there's some aspect of having a good tool to do that. And I actually had ordered some pens from Hong Kong that, again, it's one of these things that popped up on my Facebook feed. And I can't remember the name of them. Anyway, I'm not going to try to remember the names of them. But it was a felt pen that used fountain pen ink that you could refill. And I like certain kinds of pens and certain papers. And like one of the things about the journals, like especially the photojournals, it's got a really nice paper that I'm using. And so it makes writing easier and smoother. So once I saw those pens and I ordered some, I think they're from Hong Kong. I haven't gotten them yet. Then I started getting these little bits of information about fountain pens, and I dug up some fountain pens that I had. Someone had given me a few fountain pens, and I pulled those out. And then I started looking at fountain pen videos on YouTube, and I'm down the rabbit hole. But it's not just because they're pens, because they're cool. And I like there's the geeky part of it, but it's also because of the writing that I'm doing. And I'm spending a lot more time writing not necessarily about photography, although I am writing. I'm definitely putting a lot more into the photo journal, like printing out the little pictures and putting them in there and writing about them. And that's a lot of fun, and having a good tool to do that is making it more exciting. So yeah, I went a little crazy. I did buy myself a nice fountain pen for Christmas. But now I'm like into all these terms, like what a finial is, and a nib, and a tine, and what a demonstrator is, and a piston fill, and a converter, and brands like Diamine and Twisby and Lamy and Otto Hutt and Shimmer and Sheening inks, like all this stuff. I've been glomming onto these, and the whole result of this is a lot of slowing down. I'm practicing my cursive again. Getting back into writing cursive, which is really, really interesting because I'm forced to sort of try to remember the letters one by one as I'm writing. So it really does slow me down.
Okay.
And so the way it's sort of feeding into my photography in a way is this whole thing about slowing down naturally, right? And so I think the two things are related. I love writing about my pictures. I love writing about other people's pictures. I'll find pictures even from our unusual group, and I'll print them and stick them in the book and start writing about them, because I was like, anyway, I won't go into it, but like that, those two things are into itself. And there's a lot more, there's a sense of creativity in the writing, even though it's just handwriting. There's some creativity part of it that I haven't experienced in a while. So
interesting.
Yeah, it really is. And so I've also gone crazy on notebooks too. I've got, researching different papers. I mean, I've really gone, I don't know if you'll be able to see this. And of course I'm showing you something that the audience can't see, but this is like some of my cursive handwriting. Is it focusing?
Very nice. Yeah, it is. Yeah. It looks great.
Yeah. And I found a community on Facebook of fountain pen enthusiasts, and they're a really, really nice community. It's interesting to be part of a part of an internet.
With the calligraphy folks too, or?
Well, I don't know. I'm not into the calligraphy part yet, and it's really, there is some overlap, but it's mostly about, because most fountain pens aren't calligraphy pens. They're just regular pens. You have to get a specific kind of nib and stuff like that for calligraphy.
And it changes the weight and the width of your ink.
Yeah, and different kind of papers are used, and usually you use a dip pen and stuff like that. Anyway, in a month I've learned all this stuff, and have really taken off. And it feeds into, like, it's not photography, but it does feed into like how I'm making my pictures, what I'm thinking about, even in terms of social media and stuff like that. And it's all going to have effect. So this is just starting. So, I'm planting the seed about what will happen in the next year in terms of writing and photography. But, I also haven't put out a newsletter in a little while because I've been so into like writing stuff with my hands that I like not wanting to sit in front of a computer. So I wanted to mention that. That's not necessarily, photography. That's just something I'm doing personally. But I think it does affect. I think it does. We were talking offline about the, Barian X candid frame. Why don't you describe it?
Well, he was talking this week. His show dropped that he had Joel Meyerowitz on, and it was an amazing discussion about Joel's life and creative journey. Really the only way that Barian X can do it. Following him from his transition from Kodachrome on 35 millimeter to sheet film on 8x10, and his life and interest in color photography, and how that started, that bit of origin story. If you've not heard it, it's certainly worth listening to. And
well, mention the cameras, because that was what you were talking about. That was kind of why I'm.
Well, he going from
switching from
Well, he went from 35 millimeter and Kodachrome, and his discovery started in black and white, and then, decided to go to color because that's what he was seeing. And he had heard, this is all spoilers. If you're gonna
that's okay.
Listen to them, to the podcast. I'd like to drive some business Barian X's way. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Meyerowitz heard somebody say or read somewhere that, I think it was John Sarkowski at the Museum of Modern Art, saying that what does the camera lens do? It describes, and Meyerowitz took and ran with, well, it's describing color, and what I'm looking at is color, so why don't I just shoot in color? And that was his initial rationalization to move from black and white to color.
Well, also for moving from a small fast camera to a very large slow camera.
But he did do, I mean, he did, did work in 35 millimeter for quite a while, and then he made the decision later to go to large format, to an 8x10 field camera, basically.
Yeah.
And he was talking about, and this metaphor was great, it really resonated with me, and that was the jazz performance of being on the street with a 35 millimeter camera, clicking and finding improvisational moments and arranging things, that happen in a blink of an eye, in a 60th of a second or 250th of a second, to an 8x10 view camera, which you have to carry around. It's 35 pounds of weight you carry on your shoulder, and you set it up, and then you decide what your subject is going to be, and it takes all this time,
and you have two very expensive pieces of film.
Yeah, that's right.
To deal with. I mean, at a time, the holders hold film left, and that even when 8x10 film was cheap, it wasn't cheap.
No.
Today,
well, you think of the area of an 8x10 being about the same as a 36 exposure roll on a contact sheet, right?
Yeah.
It's a whole roll of 35 millimeters in one frame. So.
Yeah. I mean, that whole idea of slowing down, I mean, that's obvious, but, to take that and what can we learn from, someone like Meyerowitz or anybody else who does that kind of transition and stuff. So yeah, let's not spoil it anymore. I mean, I want to listen to the episode, but you'll find, there's enough in there that,
yeah, there's lots, and it's always worth listening to Joel talk. Always. Yeah. You never fail to get something out of what he's saying.
Do you know if he shot his Cape Light stuff with large format?
I believe he did.
It was large format? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because that's a book I want to get, the Cape Light. He spent a lot of time in Cape Cod. He was in Cape Cod at the time when I was a kid and spending time in Cape Cod. So I'm always wondering if he had known some of the people I knew. And I imagine he might have heard of them, like my dad and couple of other people, so maybe we can get him on the show.
Well, let's try.
I'd like to get him on the show. I was reaching out to Barry next because I wanted to talk to Meyerowitz about Provincetown, not as on a part of the show, just like, hey, did you know my dad and stuff like that. So maybe Barry next, if you're listening, we'd like to, can you put us in touch with Joel, please? Be nice to talk to him. He just seems like someone. I'd like to talk to, just in general stuff.
So I just confirmed on the Faden, the book site, that yes, he was. There's a picture of him standing in the attic with his 8x10 field camera.
He's using an 8x10
and Cape Cod. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. That is a really nice book. The quality of the pictures in that book. So what have you remembered from this past year in photography?
Some technology moves in photography.
Like
the new iPhones. There's lots going on there. I don't have one. I've still got a 4-year-old iPhone.
You should upgrade. I mean, I'm not.
I know I should. I got to upgrade my beloveds first before I upgrade.
Yes, mine. No, obviously, but you will see a big jump. Like that's a significant leap in technology. What is it about it that caught your eye or is catching your eye about the technology?
Oh, just some of the effects, the studio lighting, like just the algorithms getting better and better at doing the digital processing. What's the word I'm looking for?
The portrait effects.
But there's a computational photography.
As Apple calls it, the photonic engine.
Oh, the photonic engine. Okay.
What the hell does that mean?
I don't know.
It's just a made up word. Well, all words are made up, but
and also, the real death knell now of DSLRs and The global shutter came out. Sony brought out the global shutter, which is interesting. It's early days for that.
You think we're going to be seeing less DSLRs in the next year?
Oh, I think.
Oh, we're not going to see any, right? No, we're not seeing any.
They're going to be there.
Sorry, I was mixing them up.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, those are gone. Yeah.
So so there's, on the Canon side, there's that tiny mirrorless that look like the old Rebel SL3. They've got a old like 2020.
They're still selling these things though. They still sell the DSLRs. I mean, it's funny you say the depth of them. They're not going away.
No, and they're still. I mean, if
they're
I think
still
of
manufacturing
Canon,
them.
Yeah, and EF lenses are great on the Canon side. That's just what I'm most familiar with.
Yeah,
and they adapt well to the new R series cameras.
They're not developing them anymore. They're not putting new lenses on. I remember this from my B&H days because I was trying to tell people, yeah, you could get this, but it's kind of a dead end at this point. And that was before Canon actually said that their 1D, the big one, the flagship, was going to be the last DSLR they were going to make. But just before that, we were all sort of, the rumors were flying, and people were coming to buy, and I said, well, yeah, you can get this camera, like a Digital Rebel or something like that, and it's fine, and you'll still be able to buy lenses, but it's not going anywhere. And so it wasn't trying to upsell them. It was just, this is the tea leaves, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And then 5D Mark IV, and on the Nikon side, this D750 and 850. I mean, I remember one of the Beers and Cameras things years ago when the D850 first came out, was the 1.2, the 50 millimeter 1.2 on that D850. It was heaven.
Yeah.
I was just taking pictures of, what was it? Maybe it was a 75? Anyway, it was a longer lens. It wasn't a 50. We were just sitting in the restaurant, and I was taking pictures of the cooks behind the counter, the kitchen counter where the help staff go by. And I just remember, how much fun it was to use and how it felt in the hand. So, and
then how many of these cameras will be replaced by the phone? I mean, with all the new technology. I mean, there's, I have the 15 Pro Max, and it's got the 120 telephoto on it, which is not bad at all. I mean, you could certainly do a portrait session with that lens, and the portrait mode where the computational photography is blurring out the background, and do it in such a way that it doesn't look fake. And they've gotten those stray hairs under control a little bit, so there's a little bit more capturing of that. I figured that out because of the cat's whiskers. Right. It's still not perfect, but it does a better job. And I was talking to students, I think it was students, and thinking about when this stuff is going to migrate to cameras, the stuff that's in an iPhone. I know it's a lot more expensive to do that because the iPhone is essentially a computer. So it's got a lot more power than a phone, but some of that stuff is translating, like the subject focus. You can focus on birds and planes and cars and helmets on motorcycles and stuff like that. And
cars, I think.
Yeah, and it's cars, it's using the same. I'm assuming it's using some of the same kind of machine learning, right, to put that in there. So, it would be nice to see the cameras come up with a little bit more of that instead of megapixels and whatever the hell they're trying to sell us on.
120 frames a second. I'm sorry, I'm just not there yet.
No, did we talk about that on the last time we were talking?
I think we glossed over it. I think, but
I said the putting my tinfoil hat on, that they're in cahoots with the hard drive manufacturers.
That's right. Yeah. I remember that now.
It's like, which, it's not far from the truth. I think you're gonna, even like the phones, they're taking larger pictures. My iPhone can take 48 megapixel raw files, and then on the video side it can do ProRes, which will eat up tons of storage on your phone, and even like a 1 terabyte phone like mine, it can run out of space really quickly. So but I would like to see that kind of stuff come to mirrorless cameras, like some of it, more than just the focus things.
Yeah, and one thing for the good guys too is they're bringing out that authenticity mechanism where they're embedding the information from the camera to help at least with whether or not the image was actually captured on a camera by a photographer.
Right. Right.
Using using the primary or whatever you want to call it, the private key infrastructure.
Right. We talked about that a couple of
so that
shows ago.
That was another thing of
but that should be we should see more of that.
Yeah.
Both in phones and it'd be nice in phones because I can imagine that's not hard to do.
Yeah.
To put it into a phone, but to see it in cameras as well. I would like that too. What was your year of photography like? You've had a lot of different experiences.
It was. I mean, on the in terms of volume, it was very low.
Yeah.
I mean, I went from the high of visiting you the year before.
Yeah.
And getting so much work out of that, which I still haven't really gone chased down and processed. It just I kind of like the idea of having this glowing thing over here, this glowing attaché case that I can go in.
Open up and the golden light
myself.
shines.
Yeah, it's a Repo Man or something. I go in
Pulp
there.
Fiction. Yeah,
Pulp Fiction. Yeah. Did that the women project with my artist friend and my aunt who had passed away and my mother. That I think is very meaningful, but like some of the New York work, I'm not ready yet to go through that. Getting a new job that's no longer downtown. I think I'm starting to mourn that actually.
That's affecting.
I think that's kind of affecting my psyche in a way. It's just I've only been working there for 3 months, so I don't know for sure. But
you're not.
But I'm not I'm not just
streets.
5 minutes away from pounding the pavement.
Yeah.
And so I don't know what that's going to look like. Should I just walk around the industrial area that I work in now and see what?
We were just talking about liminal. We were just talking about liminal spaces.
Liminal spaces,
yeah, which we'll put on hold for another show. But it seems like that area that you're in might be ripe for that kind of.
I could certainly do something with
experimentation.
What's there,
yeah,
but it's not people and the whole buzz of shooting.
Yeah,
that it'll be something else.
Are you afraid?
So
you're
I have
lose
to work that into. I'll have to work that into. Whatever.
Are you afraid you're going to lose your touch if you're not constantly photographing people?
I think so, but it'll become something else. I don't. I don't like to change too much, but it's like a lot of other things. It's not earth shattering, and my photography experience will just become something else. And then I'll try and pretend to be an expert in that, whatever that thing is. I take pictures of truck tires.
Yeah,
I don't know anyone who's got as many truck tire pictures.
We're gonna change the name of this show. Neither one of us is gonna shoot street anymore. We'll call it something.
No, street is part of my heart and soul. Any city that I visit, without a doubt, I will be shooting street.
Yeah,
I'm inspired by street photographers, and so that part will never end.
It'll be interesting in your case, like seeing what happens when you do get to pop along the street again, which you haven't done it for a while. Like anytime we take a break from something and we come back to it, like I always wonder if we approach it in a new way slightly, or do we go back to doing exactly the way we were doing it before? And neither is good or bad. It's just, I'd be curious about will the new pictures that you photograph the next time you spend, a couple of days in downtown Calgary, will they look like the old ward, or will they be looking like something new?
I have a feeling about that because I've a few times since the summer I've gone down with my son.
Yeah.
And he because we look after different things, we look for different things. I find myself starting, because it had been so long since I'd been out before, taking lame pictures of architecture like it's 2014 again. And it doesn't take very long. After 5 or 10 minutes of, I got to point the camera down and there are people. I will take pictures of people. And then I kind of get it back, sort of. but it's not the run and gun in the zone of,
Yeah.
you know, the old days, or like I'm at the Stampede Midway, or I'm, you know, walking up Broadway with you. So, but, you know, like I say, it'll become something else. It's just the adjustment, right?
Yeah. And you still have Stampede pictures that you're going to process?
Yeah, I found a couple here a few weeks ago, and I posted ones that I have no idea why I didn't pick them before, why they didn't stand out. I have to say that I'm really liking my technique now.
Which is your processing technique, or
well, the processing, the shooting technique. I'm picking a higher ISO, and I've started stopping down. I make this joke that I was f4, now I've moved to f8.
Yeah. Okay.
And I've, you know, I think some of the pictures have worked fine for social media, but if I want to blow them up, and there are a couple of pictures that I think would look better with, you know, as not that people want to put street photos in their, hang them up in their living rooms or anything like that. That's one thing about that particular art. It's like, you know, you have to kind of, it's a limited audience. But anyway, so the fact that I picked a smaller aperture, the camera seems to have an easier time. And I'm just afraid of having the background be too much in focus. It will distract, but I'm still close enough that, and because I'm shooting with the 23 or the 50, it's still fine.
But then you open up yourself to doing layered imagery a little bit more. If you've got more depth of field, you're going to see different things going on in your foreground and background, right?
Yeah, I'm not
It'll be a little more clear
guy. Now, I mean, that may force me into evaluating backgrounds more. I think of our brother in light, Mark Ryerson, whose backgrounds always look, they're engineered. He's like Crudson or Jeff Wall, where the whole thing seems constructed. It isn't. It's a grab shot, but it's Mark's freaking grab shot, and it's amazing. And he can do that. I can't do that. I'm just like looking for that little bit of human sculpture that's right in front of me, that's 6 or 8 feet in front of me. And that's really all I'm thinking about when I'm shooting.
Yeah.
I look for backgrounds that aren't horrible and poles sticking out of people's heads and things like that.
You showed me some of your Stampede shots that had multiple things going on in foreground and background, which I thought were kind of cool. And then that's an environment where you're going to see that, though, because it's packed with people and
So I am fortunate that at once a year I have that whole week of bang, 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 and just getting back up to speed and seeing the Sea of Humanity, which is, you know.
Yeah.
So we'll keep naming the thing Street Shots, because I promise.
Yes, okay. We're not going to change the name.
When I go on trips to different cities in the country or further afield, I will be doing my best to shoot whatever's there.
Yeah. Oh.
So.
I have a friend coming into town, I think next week or the week after, from England. I had him on the show a while back, Alex Ford, and he's from the UK, and he is he's doing? He does weddings. He was doing photographed newborns, and I had him on the show because he had of his transition from being, I think, when he was a soldier, to then becoming a photographer. He was in Afghanistan. He also photographed while he was in Afghanistan as well. And we've maintained, actually we became friends. We became friends during Superstorm Sandy, because I was tweeting out how our building was shaking because of the wind, and he was paying attention to it, and we continued talking from there. So I've never met him in person, and he strikes me as someone I can't wait to meet. And he asked some we're having a lot of sirens outside all of a sudden, so I'm really curious what's going on. But he asked sort of a general question about what camera he should bring when he comes to New York. He's coming with his family, and I said, you should just travel with, the least amount that you can. And he's going to bring, he's got a Nikon Z8 or Z8 would be on your side, and a ZFC, which is the APS-C sort of retro
that's
camera.
That's a cute retro camera,
yeah. It's the new ZF is what I really want to get, but
and that's a crop sensor, right?
That's a crop sensor, and I was saying, don't bring the big camera, bring the small camera, because believe me, you don't need giant full frame pictures of New York. It doesn't, and you just want to travel light.
This from the guy who walks around with a GFX on the street.
Well, yeah. I do. To be fair, though, I do have my Helios 44-2 attached to it, Frankensteined onto it, so it does make it look kind of like a goofy camera. Anyway,
well, you bring as much as you want, but only walk on the street with one or two different things.
Yeah, but I think if you're visiting New York, you also want to, you want to have a good time with your family too. So,
I didn't. I was there. I was all
you were there by yourself.
Man.
He's going to be there with his family, Anyway, I bring him up because I'm hoping that our schedules will coincide where I can go meet him in the city or hang out with him or go on a photo walk with him. So I'm thinking like there'll be another opportunity for me to go in the city.
Has he been to New York before?
No, he hasn't been to New York.
Oh, man.
He was actually going to come. I think he was scheduled to come just prior to, or he was planning to come just prior to the lockdown before we got into pandemic mode. And so that sort of threw things in a loop for him. I was looking for a hotel or a Airbnb in my neighborhood for him. And then, lockdown. So anyway, if he comes into town, I will go into the city, and if we're walking around, I'll bring my camera and do street stuff like we did. But I haven't done any street photography in a while. I'm just doing, and I'm sort of off the neighborhoody stuff. Although I do bring my camera when I'm walking around, I'm still finding the very odd thing that attracts me because that's what I do. And I am walking around with my GFX. I have been walking around with the GFX lately because I am enjoying this manual lens on it. The Helios is. Especially having a lens that says made in the USSR, for those of us who are old enough to know what the hell USSR is. Yeah. I have something that says like that and I'm using it on my camera. But I'm not sure like in the next year where the photography is going, where I'm going to go in terms of that. I've already done my show. I think the one thing we got to do is more zines.
Yeah.
We still have to finish we got to finish this one. We just need to finish the writing in it.
Yeah.
So put that on your to-do list soon. Let's get that done because I want to share it with everybody here as well because it's a really nice book, and then start another one.
Okay.
But I don't know what I'm going to be shooting. I'm going to be doing a lot of teaching in at least the next 6 months. I got my teaching schedule, and so I've got a lot of classes come up. I also set up a class for Lightroom at the place I'm teaching at Brick. So I created a Lightroom curriculum. So I've got to teach people basic Lightroom in 2 classes in 4 hours. So that's going to be interesting. So I came up with a little bit of something. It's Lightroom, not classic. It's the Lightroom. No, I am teaching Lightroom Classic.
Cloud?
Sorry. No, I have
Classic.
to teach. I actually have to teach the Classic because Brick wants to have the students be able to come in and use their computers to do the tests. And you can do that with Classic. You can't do it with Lightroom CC unless you have an account.
Right.
You have to have an account to use the software. And the idea is not have the students pay for the software. But with Classic, all you need to do is have a library, and you can put a library locally on every computer. So, I'm going to populate it with I found like a dozen of my pictures that I think are good challenges for students. But anyway, I came up with that. So I'm going to be doing that. My first class is in February, and it's a 2-week class. So I get to send them away and say, hey, do this stuff in Lightroom. And then the Brooklyn Public Library contacted me, and I'm going to do 2 classes in February and March for the Brooklyn Public Library, which I'm looking forward to because the opportunity there seems a little bit better. And I'm hoping that these 2 classes are just test classes that I can do more of. But I came up with 2 classes, new ones. One is making a zine, right? I figure I got the teaching them how to make a zine using Bookright or Lightroom, and then what goes into making a zine. I still have to make the curriculum for that. I mean, that's a one-off class. And then
that's cool.
Yeah, that's gonna be interesting because I'll use our experience of making a zine, and all the stuff that I've done for my 11218 series to give to that class. And I think that's a good practical class for a library to have. So I'm trying to come up with practical classes, and the second one is about processing imagery, but it's not necessarily using Lightroom, although I'll probably use Lightroom as part of it. But, all the processing programs that we use, whether it's Lightroom or Photomator or whatever the heck you use, Capture One, they generally have the same tools in them. clarity, shadows, HDR, whatever the hell. So I think I want to make a generic processing class, not necessarily how to use an application, but like how to process a picture. I might have to actually ask you more about that offline to get some tips about that, because that would be.
I'm a color channel freak.
You're a color channel freak. I don't know if I'm going to go that deep, because it's only a one-off 3-hour class. Yeah. But yeah, those are kind of fun to play with. Actually, I like to find out your technique for color channels things. I'm also, I've been in a lot into presets these days, and then tweaking the presets.
I'm afraid of presets. I'm just sort of like,
why?
Well, no, not afraid of them. I don't want to use them. Yeah, just like click this button. It's like, okay, I'm done.
No.
I have I want to keep the spirit of I'm in the dark room.
Right.
And I go, okay, what's the biggest problem? The biggest issue I want to deal with first for the image. I address that. What's the next one? Adjust that. What's the next one? Adjust that. Okay, are we done?
Yeah.
There's like that 2 or 3 minute fatigue that happens. You're like, is it going to work or not? Okay.
But I can also see presets like a preset could also be like A, the kind of film you use, and B, the kind of paper you use. Like if you're using, remember if you were using Agfa Patriga, and the built-in, there was a lot less choices with paper and films in terms of variety. But yeah, if you used a Panatomic X and you used Agfa Patriga as your paper, you would come out with an image base that would, as akin to a preset in a way. We have a million more options now. So but I understand what you're saying. Yes, because it also sort of there's a takeaway, like you've outsourced your maybe what you say is your creative look to somebody else, but you
Tri-X pushed to 1600 printed on Kodak poly contrast RC3.
Yeah.
That's a look I've done. And I hated it. No.
That was the kind of look that we did in school, like by accident, right?
I'm like, ugh.
Because you couldn't, you would look at that, you're like, oh, I made a picture. It's like,
I think this should have been on Kodalith. I think that
Kodalith. Oh my God. See, now we're dating ourselves. Kodalith. Kodalith was a
insane
totally
high
black
contrast.
And white. It was a lithography film.
Yeah.
I think.
For your microfiche or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. So it is pure black and white. Some people used it for making special effects on it. So
we're using it for masks for
masking as well. Yeah. Yeah. We are dating ourselves because people are now hanging out. They're like,
it's all right.
They've turned it off.
Listener, if you get it, great. If you don't worry.
So coming up for the year, I know I'd like to keep the show to a certain length, but I'm just like, let's talk a little bit more and stuff. Because I want to talk about like next year. In terms of photography for me, I want to try something different. And I don't know what that means, whether it means, going to a class and learning an old style wet plate technique, or, I've been seeing
have to visit Shane
no, Shane is on the list. And absolutely. Again, it's, I had wished my, and I can't say anything about this, but my grief schedule has its own agenda. Mm-hmm. And so traveling wasn't on the plan this year. I wished it was, but it didn't work out. And so I need to sort of, that's the one thing I need to do this year is take care of myself mentally and emotionally. And so, yes, I would love to go and I'd love to meet you there. I'd love to do what we were talking about. Like you come down and we go out, we meet it, and we collide in his house. Mm-hmm. And so, that I would like to put on the plate. But if that doesn't work out, or not, whether or not it works out or not, do something like take a class or something like that. I'm doing a lot of teaching, and I need to absorb something new.
A workshop kind of arrangement.
A workshop, whether it's taking a class in like it even made not basic photography, but it was like street photography or portraiture or something like that. But I want to do something different because now my projects are done, and I can only wander the streets so much, and take shots of ironic or weird things in my neighborhood. And that's never going to go away. I'm always going to take pictures of that, but to have some, I had a inkling of it's like, well, should I do a project on the Brooklyn Bridge about like go and do a portrait session, but over time.
Well, that's pretty fascinating. Yeah.
And I don't know what, I mean, not that it's been done before. I haven't done it, but some of the pictures that I'm very resonant with in my own library are shots of the bridge. Like when I go and photograph the bridge. And I read this book called The Great Bridge by David McCulloch, which is the building of the Brooklyn Bridge. And that gave...
there was the PBS...
Based on this book.
Series, yeah.
There was a Ken Burns thing based on the book, but you can only get so much in 2 hours. This book, if you like New York history, is ripe with New York history. And it's the minutia detail in the book. So now I walk over the bridge, just like when you learn anything, in the depths of something, and you start seeing the thing differently. So I read this book on the Brooklyn Bridge a couple of years ago, and now when I look at the bridge, I'm like, oh, that's what. So underneath that is this, and this thing is, this cable is, anyway, all that stuff is now in my mind. And so I look at the bridge a lot differently than I did before. And so I was thinking, geez, I wonder if it might be a cop out because it's an easy thing to do. So maybe I wouldn't do it.
If you're passionate about it though, you should. I'm a big fan of, if you're passionate about something, start it. And if you're in 25 or 50% in and you go, I kind of spent it all, I think I'm good.
Yeah,
I think it's certainly worth starting though, man.
Yeah.
I was inspired by it.
Well, and it is an inspirational thing. And no, I wouldn't use this as like, this is one of the things I would do this year. I'd still want to take classes and stuff like that. Maybe this would be part of the class or something like that. But, I like having the one thing to focus on, and having, if I'm not, unless I get a job and I'm working, 9 to 5, which wouldn't stop me from doing a project on the Brooklyn Bridge. But, making an effort to say, go out every Thursday morning, or go out, when there's a foggy day. Today would have been beautiful to go out. Today, the past couple of days, it's been foggy, and it's really rare in the city when it's foggy, and it just does something else. But the one picture I love, one of my pictures, I don't have tons of pictures that I love of my own, which is weird. But one shot of the Brooklyn Bridge that I love is a shot that I took a long time ago on a Nikon tilt shift lens on my Nikon camera with Agfa Scala black and white transparency film. And I've always loved the old pictures of New York. And I think of the book, The Alienist. There's an early version of that book by Caleb Carr. Caleb Carr. And it's not a picture of the Brooklyn Bridge, but is of that time period of like the Gilded Age of New York. And I've always wanted to take a picture that reminded me of that time. And when I took this picture with this film, and I scanned it and I sepiated it a little bit, and you can't see the people, and it's tilt shift, so it's an optical tilt shift. And it's actually, it's a picture I've got on my wall. I like it small because it's got that intimacy of it. And I want to do more.
Well, it's those pictures in the hallway I was trying not to knock down when I was walking by there.
Yeah, it was one of those. Yeah. So,
cool.
And because it's a New York thing, I'm a New Yorker, and so it would be nice to do my own version of that. And so we'll look to the future, and we'll see how that goes. I'm sort of putting this out in the world because I haven't said it out loud yet, and maybe people can hold me accountable. Hey, are you doing your Brooklyn Bridge project? And I'm like, maybe I should go do that. So and do it with, I've got different types of equipment which affect the kind of picture I take. Equipment does that. It affects the tilt shift lens. Certainly, I still have that tilt shift lens, by the way. I put it on my GFX. It'd be interesting to see what it does. It's kind of definitely a Frankenstein thing. So, that's kind of the plan. It's not a resolution. It's just kind of like and it's arbitrary. We picked this, New Year's break. I could start this anytime I want or not. We're just it's nice to have this little bit of it. It's nice to have an arbitrary, this is
something
what
to plan, something
year.
to look forward to,
Yeah.
So,
yeah. What do you got? What do you think for your?
Well, I've been talking for a year and a half about doing some kind of fashion shoot.
Yeah.
And I had the okay from a prospective model, and we were going to do something, and then she started going to university, and I just kind of dropped the ball. So it doesn't have to be her; it can be anybody, and do some kind of exercise my inner Peter Lindbergh. I love the idea of street fashion, and do something like that. And now that he's passed, I can kind of reviewing some of his documentaries that fashion houses do profiles on him and stuff like that. So those things are a little bit, thin in terms of, what is it? I'm a little shallow, I guess is what I meant. But just the way the guy works. Yeah, he died.
It was this year?
A few years ago now.
A few years ago. Okay.
A couple of years ago, 3 years ago.
All right. Okay.
And I just liked his attitude, about how he worked and how his rapport with his models. And he was not the creepy old guy. He was the funny dad or grandfather, the crazy German guy behind the camera. And so, yeah, I definitely want to do that.
Have you done that before?
No, I haven't done anything close to fashion since I was in my 20s and just doing headshots of people who thought they wanted to be models. Those sorts of things. So I learned a bit of lighting, but nothing really spectacular. And I was a little too young. I didn't really have an eye. I mean, the work did sell. But yeah, I haven't really, it's a good merger of whatever my street chops are, plus a person who's in the image, who's a willing participant, and have them be shot with strangers, who don't know they're being photographed, whatever, however it's going to look,
I'm really picturing this happening, like that, like I'm already imagining like the kind of imagery you might do. So I'd be curious.
Well, I'll tell you what I think the thrust of it is. And it's like the model knows she's being watched, but by her boyfriend who's across the street watching her. She's aware of him, but she's not mugging the camera. She's not doing anything. She just, the whole idea is she knows she's being watched by somebody friendly. And she's just walking along the street in different contexts or whatever. And I have ideas for in shadow and I know that Peter Lindbergh did a thing with, I think, was it for the Pirelli calendar? I have a very strong memory of him photographing Helen Mirren, the actress, where there was like this shelter that they were in. It was all outdoors, but it was a cloudy day, and there was a shelter, so there was light coming from behind and in front, but there was kind of a darkness around her, and she was kind of wrapped in a material, in a kind of a coarse material, almost Madonna-like, but a woman in her 50s, And it was just fantastic. No makeup or anything. She was just great. So those kinds of things, the very naturalistic. And so that, and in Bright Sun, I don't mind doing really glary stuff where the model I was thinking of has quite bright green eyes, and in bright sunlight, green eyes will pop.
Yeah.
And then I could use color. I mean, I imagine most of the work being in black and white, but if it's bright sun, maybe they could push a little Sports Illustrated in there and just do bright, bright, highlights off the hair and and bright lips and sparkly eyes, just fashion, but so yeah, I got
all right,
ideas.
So you put that out in the world, and we'll
put it out in the world, and people go, "Hey, where's your fashion project?" Oh.
Yeah, as you're saying that, I'll say just one more thing that I would like to do, and I said it a while back out to a few friends, but I want to go into the studio and do people again.
Wow. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, and the last time I did that was with I did stock. I'd hire some models, or actually most of them were actors. And we would go into a studio. The last time I did it was in this place called the Montauk Club, where I used to live. This old building, Gilded Age building, And I had an office on the bottom. They were renting out offices. And one day they had a leak and it came into my office and ruined my portfolio. And so I worked an arrangement where instead of them having to pay me for the portfolio, I could use the Montauk Club for a studio for a day. For no cost. And actually the Boardwalk Empire was filmed there. There's a lot of places that are filmed there. They're like this is like an old place. Very cool. I set it up as a studio. I had like these 9-foot rolls and stuff like that. And I did a lot of stocky shit. Oops. Sorry.
Stocky stuff.
We're past midnight.
Cover your ears, kids.
Hopefully Apple won't tag me for that. Anyway, and so but I enjoy the rapport with a model in the studio, and it's a collaboration, just like you're saying. The model is they know they're being photographed, and I like that back and forth. But this time I want to do it as as portraits, as not in the vein of an Irving Penn ish kind of stuff, or like very very set up kind of things. Not headshotty, or not just like I don't know. I want to go another step beyond, and I've never done that before, And so I've got a couple of people who had expressed interest in modeling for me, friends of mine. They were really good looking people, and I would just need to think about where that would be, and where I could find a place that I can set up, because I can't do it in my apartment, and what's the look? What am I trying to do? And that means, renting lights, or maybe just one. Should I do it with one light? And like the logistics about it is a little bit of a pain in the butt, but the
60-inch umbrella, I can see it now.
Yeah, I don't, a big Octabank or something like that. Actually, what I used to do for shooting for my studio stuff? I literally get like a Super King or a California king size bed sheet. And I put it up between a couple of auto poles, which are these poles that spring to the ceiling and to the floor. And I put a bank of like 4 strobes behind that, and I would stand in front of it. So it was essentially just like a giant window behind me, and I wouldn't have to worry about light. I would do an entire production like that. And I'd either shoot straight on, right? Or I would shoot at angles, and I would set up backdrops on the left and right of this bank of light so that I would get side light. And then I might use fill and stuff like that. This way, I didn't worry about light. I just big window of light, and that's it. And because otherwise I'm fiddling with lights all day, and you're moving stuff around, and it's like I don't have time for this stuff. I got models for a certain amount of time. I have to sort of milk out the. Now that might not be the look for today, or that might not be the look for what I want to get in pictures, but so I need to think about that. But that was actually quite a nice setup. It did create a nice when all the heads worked, when they all fire off at the same time. These days I don't know if my lights would work because I haven't fired up the capacitor as well. When you have strobe lights, you need to let electricity go through them for the capacitors. Otherwise, when you try to use them for the first time, they'll explode. So you essentially have to plug them in.
I used to work with mainframe computers that had capacitors the size of pop cans.
Oh, really?
And every now and then they would explode, and there's this horrible smell. And your computer would be down for a while.
Yeah, what you have to do with strobes, I still have a couple of packs, and you plug it in, and what you're not supposed to do is fire it off immediately. You just let it sit there with electricity going in it for like as many hours as you can let it go, and then shut it down, and then plug in the heads, and then fire off the flash.
Let it drain slowly.
Yeah, let it drain slowly. Yeah,
don't pop it. Okay.
Yeah. So, but anyway, that's either here or there. I'd probably rather use like consistent light rather than flash, because it does allow there's something that you can see happening. So anyway, I'll put that on the platter. Cool. So, anything else you got, or we?
No, I think I'm pretty talked out, actually.
I'm pretty talked out. So, for the show, I do have a long list of people, and I didn't contact a lot of them this year, but I would like to do it coming up for having guests. I know we only do 12 episodes a year, right? We do we do 24.
24.
So we got a lot of opportunities. So I put it out there that I definitely want to have more guests. I know we have bits of restrictions now because you're working and you know, in terms of timing and stuff like that. So it may not be as easy to do, but we'll work on it. And I've been getting a couple of books in. I'm on a list of, you know, some publishers are sending us books to review. So nice. we still have a couple, right? We have one or two that we should go over. So I'd like to get those in. So that's kind of for the next year. And then I don't know what we have planned for episode 200. Whether we should have we won't spoil it, but I have no idea yet. So,
there's no spoiling if there's no knowledge, and you know,
right. We don't know, but I would like to let you know. 200 is. I don't think I've done 200 of anything.
Cheeseburgers.
Cheeseburgers, yeah. No, I don't like cheeseburgers. I don't like hamburgers. You know. People want to put cheese on it all the time. So yeah, I think that's it. I think we've got ourselves a plan. It was nice to talk about last year. I know, you know, I think I got AI out of my system. We'll leave it unless something comes up in the middle of the year.
Well, Dune pictures, you know, the Dune movie's coming out, and I think you're going to be in there with your Dune art.
I like the old Dune art. The old weird, the weird stuff that Midjourney made when it was just getting started is so cool because it looked like what's his name, Whitkins.
Joel Peter
Whitkins. Yeah, it had that kind of feel to it. Now it just looks like the people from the movie. Like, who cares? Okay. I like the weird stuff that it was doing in the past. Yeah, that's the thing.
Maybe you can specify the version of
you actually can
image engine.
Yeah. But anyway, I think unless something comes up, I don't really want to get into AI, you know, until, you know, as part of our discussion, because I just wanted to put another flag in the ground about, like, here we are. Here's where it's come. Here's where it's going to go, and we'll talk about it in the end of 2024 with any luck. We'll see what goes on. But anyway, that's it. That's it. You know, there's so much more in photography and books and people I want to talk about, and that could probably go on for another hour. And I won't, because I want to sit here and I'm spending my time at night writing. I want to get I got my hands on a pen, and you know, I would say. I would try it. If you're into writing by hand is really, really interesting. A lot of stuff's coming up by writing for hand. I'm doing these things called the morning pages too, like from Julia Cameron, The Artist's Way. Mm-hmm. So you get up in the morning and you write 3 pages longhand, stream of consciousness. So I think if you're stuck with anything, try that. It can clear out some of the garbage that's building up.
Interesting.
Anyway, yeah. All right. Well, where are we going to find you in the future and the now and the present?
In the future and the now, on the socials and on the thing.
Wherever you are wanting to be found.
Yes. On Vero and Twitter, I am at WRosinPhoto. On Instagram, I'm Ward Rosin Fine Art. On Facebook, you can find me at Ward Rosin Photo. My website, which is very thin right now, I should upload a bunch of my street pictures just to make it a little more interesting, is rosin.ca. And our unofficial sponsor is Ornis Photo, or NIS.photo, where I sell lens adapters for Fuji X and Sony E-mount, and a few 7 Artisans lenses.
Yes,
they're actually still selling. Thank you for that.
Okay. Yeah.
Got a couple more sales. So
nice, fantastic. Yeah.
What about you, Mister? Where can we find you?
Yeah, you know, my social has been taking sort of a slow crawl these days, but I would say Instagram now at AM Rosario Photo. My website is amrosario.com. I'm not giving you Twitter because I am not on Twitter anymore. So, you know, don't look for me there. Our website is streetshots.photography. And subscribe to our newsletter. I will come up with one. I'm going to try to come up with one before the end of the year. I got some idea for the next couple of days. So streetshots.substack.com. And if you want to support the show, and we will have a zine that you can buy at some point in the future, because it's a great way to support us and we get to show our pictures. But until then, you can buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Antonio Rosario. And another way to support the show, which I'm asking as a sort of a New Year's Christmas gift, if you guys can get, please, if you have an episode that you like, share it with people. Let people know about the show. I really want to sort of organically grow the show audience, and without having to do all the kind of crazy stuff that people do. I haven't put advertising on here at all. I don't want to do that. And I just want to get more people to listen to us, and I want to engage with you guys. So please contact us and tell us what's going on with you. This is kind of like a two-way thing. I'd like it to be two-way. Right now, it's a lot more one-way. So please do us a favor. Just tell people us, or reach out and talk to us. And we're not as organized, or I'm not as organized about the website and stuff like that as I'd like to be. But there's ways of contacting us, and yeah, if you want to do letter writing, we could be pen pals too. So anyway, yeah, but it's because I'm just getting late at night.
You do your handwriting and then send an email with the image of your handwriting.
I was thinking about that. Actually, someone did that for me today, which was really kind of moving. Someone wrote a letter to me in longhand and then took a picture of it because they don't have my address, and then put it up there, and I thought that was really special. So
very cool.
Yeah. So, Ward, have a good New Year. Start.
You too, my friend.
Yeah, and
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, and we'll catch you sometime next year, which is of course the bad joke. And anyway, thanks for joining me tonight.
All right,
and everybody have a good night and a good New Year to you all.
Good. The last two are good.
Okay, good. You go.
A picture should be looked at, not talked about. A boot. I'm in the middle. My accent's in the middle somewhere.
Zed and about. Boot.
A boot. A picture should be looked at, not talked about.
Oh, you should do a boot.
No. That's a little bit further east. The Alberta accent's pretty American.